Each year, the Pennsylvania Treasury receives millions of dollars in unclaimed property, things like forgotten checks, uncashed checks, stock, insurance policies, recovered and stolen property. Treasury maintains custody of this property and works to return it to its rightful owners. Today, I'm pleased to take you on a behind-the-scenes tour of the vault, which houses many of the items that have yet to be claimed. I'll talk with Bureau of Unclaimed Property Director Michael Fedor on how some of these items we'll see today could possibly belong to you. Stay tuned for an exciting tour of the Pennsylvania Treasury Bureau of Unclaimed Property on this edition of A Conversation with Gene Yaw. Michael, thank you for inviting us to this facility here. And where are we? What is it? What do we have here?
Well, first of all, thank you, Senator Yaw, for doing this and coming to see the vault today. We're at the Pennsylvania Vault, the Commonwealth's Vault. It currently houses our tangible property as part of the Unclaimed Property Unit in the Pennsylvania Treasury. This vault was built more than almost 100 years ago, and it houses today tangible property that's held by Pennsylvania Treasury.
What was it originally built for?
Originally it was built to handle all the cash assets of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, built at a time of bank robberies and train robberies, so there's a lot of 1930s style security measures in place here. Used to house quite several $1 million in cash.
Well, I still get the feeling that I'm under Harrisburg here, so...
Yeah, we're about 40 feet down under the ground, and this vault was actually the first part of the building to be built, so this was built first, and then the finance building was built around it.
It's not the type of thing you can take part of it out and replace it, I guess.
Not at all. In fact, I think it's one of the most unique vaults in the world that's still in operation.
Why is that?
Just the security measures, the thickness of the walls, the thickness of this door behind us. Not many vaults are maintained like this today.
Has anybody ever tried to take anything out of here?
No, we've never really had any kind of stage robberies as my experience has been. And some of the security measures we're going to see today are unique to this vault. So in here is called the banded barrier. This is where actual security guards could be stationed in a series of mirrors through here. You can see a 360 view of the entire vault.
This isn't like a fair, a fun house or anything.
Not at all.
Funny mirrors.
Not at all. So in fact, if you come in here, and they're actually looking at the other side of the vault through all this set of mirrors through there, and that's what's really unique about this vault. It's just all these security measures that were built when it was originally installed in the 1930s.
Wow.
It's amazing, and it actually wraps all the way around, and so that's...
Somebody could get lost in here.
Yeah, it's... but luckily for the mirrors, we'd see them, so... It's great. So if we want to go inside here, okay. These are actually our steel doors here. So Pennsylvania Treasury actually holds more than $2.3 billion in unclaimed property. The tangible property we're going to see today is just a small portion of the total of what we actually hold for claim. And these are some of our more rare and historic items that we have not ever been able to locate the rightful owners, but they're so unique we have not sold them and continue to have them on display here at the Treasury. So we have some very old telegrams here. This dates back I think this is our presidential vault here, so a lot of presidential history. We have a war ration book from World War II. Here's a letter from President Nixon, a letter personally from former First Lady Eisenhower. So there's some incredible history in this case here.
And you mentioned tangible property versus what other kind of property, or what are the different types of property that the state actually has unclaimed?
Right, so property falls in two main categories. Tangible, which we hold in the vault here, is the physical assets we get, and then we have intangible, which are financial instruments. These can be your last paycheck from a job that you didn't cash, could be a security deposit from an old apartment.
Bank accounts.
Bank accounts, the proceeds of a life insurance policy that was never claimed, old CDs that you had in a bank and you didn't take any activity on. Those get turned over to the Treasury. What's new this year is The dormancy period for most of those types of property used to be 5 years. It's been changed to 3 years because it's much easier to find folks and reunite them with their property. If it's a 3-year dormancy period, we have a better chance of having folks getting their property back.
Is that one of the goals, is to get people back reunited with their property?
Absolutely. This is probably one of the most, it's actually the oldest consumer protection law in the United States, and it's probably the most underutilized or unknown of consumer protection law. It actually was put in place. Our mission here is to reunite the property with its rightful owners.
Well, how do people go about it, and what's the time period? Is there a time period when they can come to the unclaimed property and say, hey, I found this or old paper and some things I was going through, do you have it? And is there a time period when people can come back and ask?
Not at all. In fact, after the property's been turned over to us, one of the first things we have to do is try to locate the rightful owner. And so we, under the statute, engage in a year-long process of trying to contact the last known address of the owner of the property that was reported. We might send them a letter, try to reach out to them. If we're unsuccessful, then the property goes into our claims or our property database. It's searchable online 24 hours a day at www.patreasury.gov. And people can go in, they can search for their name, the name of a grandmother, a spouse, brother and sister, a Boy Scout troop, their church, anything that they have some association with. We encourage them to search, and hopefully we can reunite them with the rightful owners.
That's very interesting. How about showing us some of the things that you have here?
So back here we have employees who work down here every day, and they're working on basically this enormous inventory system. And what we have here are,
these are all military medals.
Military medals, and we actually engage in a special effort about twice a year. We open these cases back up to try to find if we can reunite any of these medals with the rightful owners. These have a lot of sentimental values.
A lot of Purple Hearts.
And it's such a shame to know that a family has lost a military medal. Some of these are rather rare to have been awarded. So, and some of these date back to the Civil War in the lower part of the case here. I think that's our oldest medal. Right here is this red Civil War medal. So back here, further back, we have some other really maybe more current memorabilia. In this case, we have some sports memorabilia that some of this might have turned up on a police seizure, from a raid, from an arrest, from property that was stolen. This could have also been the contents of a safety deposit box that went forgotten and then therefore became unclaimed property. And even, we could have decades pass and then we finally find the rightful owners. In the case of, we had some rare artifacts associated with Honus Wagner, who was a very famous Pittsburgh pirate. And we were actually able to reunite his property with his heirs. And that's something else people need to know, is it's not just your property. If you're the heir, direct descendant, or mentioned in a will, you could also step forward and claim the property of someone for whom you're an heir.
Very interesting.
You bet. So back here in this final cage.
What's this?
Oh, right.
The money.
This is currency. This is old American currency. And then we have some letters here that also, these could have been in contents of safety deposit boxes. And some of this stuff is on display here just to kind of show the uniqueness of what we hold at the Pennsylvania Treasury. These are old state currency, when the states used to, before the United States was formed, before the Articles of Confederation, or before the Articles of Confederation, we had states printing their own money.
And the pistol came with it?
Yeah, that's a rare. Usually today we don't accept weapons. This is one of those historical artifacts, non-functioning, so we have it on display here.
What do you do with weapons?
We return them back to the police departments. That if they try to return them into us, we don't accept weapons, ammunition. It's dangerous to the employees, and also it's not something we want to be responsible.
Is that any kind of a weapon? I mean, even like a musket or anything like that?
Yeah, we generally just, as a blanket policy, don't accept weapons. Encourage police departments or whoever has it to take some other measures.
What do you do with large things like cars?
So the cars fall in the category of property we don't accept. Bicycles, we don't accept bicycles. Okay. And real estate, we don't accept
or airplanes, you don't, anything like that?
Yeah, exactly right. Those are things that we physically don't have the space for, unfortunately. Even this, the property that you see in the vault today, we can only hold it for about 3 years. And then we engage in a process of auctioning off the property, and then we hold the cash proceeds from those sales to be claimed by the rightful owner should they ever step forward.
Okay.
We operate an eBay store, which has become very successful and a model for a lot of other states who run their own eBay stores now. And then we also engage with some auction houses who help us sell maybe some of the more valuable property rather than selling that on eBay.
Well, how about showing us some of these small pieces here?
You bet. So in here we have some jewelry. I think it's always really exciting. Folks see the rings. We have some very valuable jewelry that's on display here at times too. You can see this Rolex watch with diamonds, or what might be diamonds. We don't test necessarily for the actual jewel, but we've had professional appraisers come in and look at some of this stuff, and we know its value.
As a general rule, I mean, when you put it out for auction or whatever you do you have it appraised so that you're sure that you're getting a fair price for it? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. We engage in this a fair market value assessment. Yeah. We have some tools we can use in-house here that allow us to test what is the jewel or what is the material we're looking at, and stuff that we believe to be more valuable, we'll actually take the step of having an appraiser look at, so we don't sell something on eBay for far less its true value.
I'd love to know what that Rolex watch is worth.
Yeah, I think it's in the several thousands of dollars. Certainly much higher price than I would pay for a watch. We also have some other jewelry back here, some jade jewelry, some pearls, some really beautiful stuff. And it's so unfortunate, but to know that folks have misplaced or lost these belongings, but we're doing our best every single day to reunite. In fact, in your district alone, there's more than $15 million that's available for claim today.
Really?
Yeah, and last year our specialists helped to pay about $750,000. So if you think about it, there's still 20 times that available for claim by the residents of your district. And all I have to do is go online and search, and they could be one of those folks we're holding proceeds for, either from a previous auction, maybe the tangible property, or it could even be cash.
Yeah, that's amazing to me that there's that much money in the district that's unclaimed.
It is, and it's an incredible effort you're doing today by helping to educate the public and draw their attention to the fact that we're available to help them claim that money for free. Treasury doesn't charge any fees for folks to come and claim what is rightfully theirs.
Well, when the constituents see this, you may get bombarded with phone calls. So
that's great,
or whatever. But how many transactions do you have in a day or a month or whatever with people making claims for their property?
So every year, about 160,000 claims are initiated with the Bureau of Unclaimed Property. Most of those are initiated online, but folks can also call our free 800 number, which is listed on the patreasury.gov website, and they can have us search on the phone and see if anything is under their name. And we can also ask them some questions to see, is the right Don Smith on the phone with us with what we have. But actually each year, of the 160,000 that might be initiated, about 70,000 make their way to actually being a legitimate claim that we can pay. Last year we paid just over $100 million statewide in unclaimed property
That's
claims.
what was paid out.
That was what was paid out. It's tremendous. And that's just an incredible public service that Pennsylvania Treasury is engaged in.
Well, it's amazing to me that there's $100 million out there that people haven't claimed.
That's exactly right. And we have all nature of claims. We have claims about $5, $10, and we've got claims that we paid. Our largest claim just this year was more than $3 million to an estate.
I don't understand how you lose or misplace $3 million, but in any event.
Yeah, and this is also the uniqueness of what we're dealing with, because sometimes unclaimed property, not every business is obligated or engages in a due diligence before they turn the property over. So folks may not even know that the property has been sheeted or turned over to the state, and that's why our function is so important. We actually engage in that public education.
Well, I know that changing from 5 years down to 3 years has made a significant difference, I think, as far as people losing track of it or not knowing what was going on, because I'm not sure that most people understand that that's the time period now.
Yeah, it's something that we really have to make sure the public's aware of, and they've already started to call, because some folks who thought they could just leave an account be dormant and not do anything, think it can hang there forever, and actually businesses and financial institutions need to turn those funds over after 3 years of dormancy. but we can also help in that process and moving those claims along as quickly as possible. The other thing that's really important is that if you're dealing with a financial institution, and if they've turned over your funds and you didn't want them to, or it wasn't a dormant account, you can go back to that financial institution, ask to be reinstated, and then they can seek a holder reimbursement from the Pennsylvania Treasury.
Well, that's interesting because I run into that situation with little accounts or small, especially nonprofits that have an account and it sits there and they just don't have an immediate use for it, and 3 years goes by quickly.
Yeah, it does, and it's important for them to reach out to your office, and you can work hand in hand with us, and we'll make sure to do our best to reunite that property with the rightful owner.
We certainly will do that.
Great.
You have some other things here.
Yeah, so over here we have, this is more recent a piece of property that was turned over, and due to the recent movie Unbroken, this takes on some more significance. What you're looking at here is a scrapbook from what we believe is the U.S. men's track and field team from the 1936 Olympics that were held in Berlin. And there's some very powerful imagery here. If you look in the case, we see a German athlete giving the Nazi salute on the medal stand there. And there's some photos of Jesse Owens. As you know, he was an African-American member of the U.S. team that year, and it caused a lot of stir in Germany.
Is that a photo of him right there?
Yeah, that's him right there. And this is an incredible piece of history that we don't know who the owner is, but it's so valuable and so unique. It's not something we would auction off, and we maintain it here at the vault. And for events like this.
Wonder if that's the Hindenburg.
I wonder, right? It's not a good enough shot to see close enough to see what it is, but this is just another example. And of course, all the drawers that you see around us, many of them are filled with property. We have foreign currency, we have savings bonds, we have jewelry, with drawers and drawers and drawers. The employees of the Pennsylvania Treasury are engaged in a very intensive and accurate inventory process. We inventory and review every piece of property that's turned over to us, and we've maintained it in safekeeping for 3 years in these vault drawers.
It's amazing. All right, I can't help it. I've got to ask about the golf clubs.
Golf clubs.
And the balls, too. What, do people practice down here?
No. This actually probably came in off of a police seizure of stolen property. And if they engaged in this thing and don't know to whom the right property belongs after so long, police departments have to turn it over to us, and then we do our best to try to reunite. And maybe you will see it online soon on the eBay store and say, those are my golf clubs, and you can come and let us know. But this is just another example of the odds and ends we get here. Here's a series of cuckoo clocks from a clockmaker. These were, the business went out of business. These are the clients who never came back to get their clocks from the clockmaker, and so they got turned over as unclaimed property. And some very old artwork. We do our best to work with some auction houses who have expertise in the area of identifying truly valuable artwork. These are just some examples of some older artwork we hold. And back here we have, the question is this a weapon or not, right?
We had the discussion about guns.
Right. So here's a bow and arrow set that we have received, and not sure who the rightful owner is. This will either be eventually auctioned at probably one of our auction houses. It's something a little more valuable than we would necessarily put on eBay. And then we have some really random things. I mean, also coming in from police seizures would be PlayStations, electronics, kids' toys. So that's these will also be going to auction very soon as well. A little more valuable than we tend to put on eBay. And then we've got some Jaws of Life set. This is really unique. Was left on the scene of an accident by a fire company. No one could figure out whose they were, and so we're doing our best to figure out how best to get these into back into service if they are in serviceable condition, so they can be used to help save lives.
I think it's surprising that a fire company would not miss the Jaws of Life.
Exactly. Some pretty very valuable equipment, but unfortunately we just don't know who the rightful owners are.
Then we have a guitar.
Yeah, look at that left-handed Fender. So this would be like Jimi Hendrix would have played. This is unique. You don't usually see a left-handed electric guitar like this.
Paul McCartney.
Yep, indeed. Yep. And then these are some examples of some of the auction houses we've worked with in the past to help auction off some of the more valuable property that we receive here.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
You know, we were talking a little bit about how to claim this stuff, and Pennsylvania Treasury was successful last year in getting an update to the finder's law. Finders who usually will step forward and help folks be reunited with property. Well, they're now regulated by the Pennsylvania Treasury. They have to register with the Pennsylvania Treasury. It's part of our consumer protection mission here.
I didn't even realize there was any such animal as a finder.
Yeah, there's some folks who make a business out of reuniting folks with unclaimed property. They tend to do it for a fee.
What about the security, like for this vault? I know that all the containers seem to be locked or have combination locks on, but in general, how do you provide security, or what is it here?
Well, this is an extremely secure facility, and it's the reason we house the tangible
40 feet
property.
Underground. I figured that.
Yeah. The employees also leave together, come out together. There's also several timed locks on this vault, and so you can't get in here until the timers go off for the next start of the workday. So you also could end up, making sure that, we want to make sure everyone comes out and no one's left behind or locked at the end of the day.
Is there somebody here 24/7, or is at night it's closed up?
At night it's closed up, and then there's also security measures at the front of the vault. And you might have noticed on the way in, there's actually one of those little slots for when the guards used to have to put their pistol through the door, or where people could put their pistol when they were coming to visit the vault. So this is, again, harkens back to, this basically functioned as the bank of the state back in the 1930s and 40s. But the employees here are extremely safe, and we do a great job to maintain their security when they're working down here.
What would you tell people, the general public out there, that you would want them, in addition to the things that we've talked about, to know about the Bureau of Unclaimed Property?
Well, we take our job to prove entitlement very seriously. We never want to pay a claim that should not have been paid to someone who is not the appropriate owner. And so we do take some measures to ensure that the identity that's being conveyed is the right one. So during the claims process, we'll ask for signed claim forms and something called the A&I. It's an indemnification form. Doesn't need to be notarized for any property claim under $1,500, but over $1,500 it does. And then for certain property types over increasing value, like over $2,500, we ask for a signature verification to show that you are who you say you are. Mm-hmm. And depending upon the type of claim, 80% of the claims we process each year are for single living owners. So it's the person who owns the property is claiming it. But the other 20% are claims by businesses, by heirs, by relationship claims. So I'm claiming on behalf of perhaps my kids or my mom. And so those require a little more evidence, such as a probated will or articles of the business's incorporation. Those are records that we ask for in original form. Mm-hmm. And we can return back to the owner after we've reviewed the documentation. But it's all part of this process to ensure that we're paying 100% accuracy.
How big of a staff do you have here?
We have 80 employees at the Bureau of Unclaimed Property, and they help to process, as I said, about 70,000 claims a year. This year they could be receiving up to $600 million on behalf of the Pennsylvania Treasury for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's an enormous task, and they'll be also processing all those claims, and for the inventory of probably 40 to 50,000 new pieces of tangible property we could end up receiving this year.
I never had any concept of the size of the operation, the magnitude of what happens here, how much comes in, how much is paid out, how much we as Pennsylvanians have left on the table, so to speak, and just never followed up on.
Yeah, it's amazing what's actually available. $2.3 billion is out there, and we hold this in perpetuity. So whether it's 3 years after it's gone dormant or 93 years, it's going to be held by the Pennsylvania Treasury and waiting for the person to claim or their heir.
Okay, an obvious question. If you have $1,000 here and it's been here for 20 years, do I get interest on it?
No, we don't pay interest. Good question. But no, we're paying just the property as it was turned into us. And for really interesting and important to know is securities. Pennsylvania is the state that liquidates securities upon receipt. So if we end up receiving your dividend reinvestment plan or your stock portfolio that went dormant, what you're going to get are the cash proceeds at the time of our receipt and the sale of those securities. It's an important distinction how Pennsylvania tries to maintain just a cash and a tangible asset pool for claim.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time. For me, it's been very enlightening, and I hope for our constituents and the citizens of Pennsylvania that it's been very educational. And if there's several $1 billion here, you ought to take a look at it and see, maybe you have a share of it, and it's here in the Bureau of Unclaimed Property.
Well, thanks, Senator.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this today.
Thank you.